let's talk about alcohol in cooking. Does it burn off completely? Does it not burn off completely? What's the deal with that? Well, in all my research, I have discovered that alcohol does not completely burn off, ever. Even if you have small amounts of it in your cooking, there will still be a slight percentage of that left in your food. So if you'd like to avoid that completely, which I do, you want to really find substitutes for alcohol in cooking. And it's so easy. It's actually way easier than you think. Now, alcohol comes in different varieties, in different forms. So there's wine in cooking, and there's different kind of liqueurs in cooking. And I'm not talking about that per se right now. What I'm talking about is the ingredients that are added to certain food products that are derived from alcohol. So one of the biggest problem areas are extracts. So, for example, ice cream has commonly vanilla extract instead of the vanilla bean, because beans are more expensive and extracts are liquids that go a long way. And so if you're really concerned about having any type of alcohol-based product in your food, you really want to avoid that. There is a great solution, and that is to make your own extract. Now let's talk about what an extract really is. So for example, when vanilla is extracted, the bean itself is sliced open, and then all these little pods that are inside have this, that's where all the flavor is carried. And what they do is soak this in something like vodka or a very strong alcohol to literally extract that flavor into the liquid. And then that liquid is then used to flavor pies and cakes and custards and ice creams and so on and so forth. So you are getting a minuscule amount of alcohol, and you don't have to, because the solution I have learned over the years and tested out and tried and experimented with and then come up with my own homemade extracts is completely alcohol-free. And the one thing that I discovered was vegetable-based glycerin, and that has been huge in my cooking and baking, because now I'm able to use this glycerin to extract the flavor of something like vanilla or lemon or coconut, mint, orange, all these things that I want to flavor my baked goods with. I'm able to do it myself. And really, the recipe is quite simple. It does take time for the ingredients to sit and to absorb and then use, but the initial process of actually doing it is not that difficult. And one thing that you really have to do is get these dark amber bottles to store the extract in for them to last. But the initial process of making the extract means that you'll use the glycerin instead of alcohol to soak the vanilla bean in, or lemon, or the orange, and so on and so forth. And those sit in mason jars for quite a long time, maybe a month or two, and in a dark place. And then that liquid is strained off and put into these amber bottles, and you just label them with what you have. Like I have orange extract, this is over a year old. It still smells like orange. It's really amazing. So I just label everything, and then I don't have to worry about alcohol in my products. I don't have to worry about alcohol-free extracts that are at the store, but they're synthetic based. I mean, these are all natural, and I made them myself. I know exactly what's in them, and it's so inexpensive to do that. You can buy this large food grade bottle of glycerin, and you can make a ton of extracts yourself that way. So that's a great alternative for the alcohol-based extracts. Now, you don't always have to have extracts for your cooking. There are other ways to flavor your products. So the other thing I really like is to use syrups. Like this is a hazelnut syrup, and I'm just going to show you that rich amber color that goes on. You can see it in the pouring, but I use this to make Italian sodas. I've added it to ice cream. There's so many different things that I add it to, and you really do have to check the labels to make sure they're halal, because sometimes they might add an extract to the flavoring, but there are halal certified products on the market which are great, and even some richer ones. Sometimes I go to farmers markets and I buy them from local vendors, because nowadays people want homemade flavors for their drinks or coffees, and they're really concerned about high fructose corn syrup being in their syrup. So I've noticed more and more people creating flavored syrups. And this one is a peach melba, which is really kind of interesting. And I got this from one of my culinary groups, and it's just got this lovely peach smell and a really pretty peach color that goes with it. So awesome. You know, how are you ever going to get that flavor unless you have the fresh peach? So that's really nice. And this is all stuff I would always have in my pantry. Now, there are even more alternatives that are really interesting. There's something called baking emulsion, and I find these in different flavors like coconut, orange, lemon, and almond. Those are my favorites, and it's really nice and rich because it's thick and smells really, really good. The thing with emulsion that's nice is that you don't need a lot of it. So maybe even like 1 teaspoon you can add to a cupcake batter and you'd really get this richness of flavor. And they don't have any alcohol in them. I don't know why they don't sell more of these because they're really, really a great baking ingredient that is alcohol free. Now, something else I've discovered over the years that's really sort of a hidden gem in Middle Eastern and Mediterranean markets are these oils that they sell, and there's some amazing flavors that you don't find anywhere else. And this is, for example, anise oil. Now, coming from an Italian family where Italian cookies are like huge and holidays and celebrations, we kind of grew up with anise oil in the kitchen because we flavor a lot of our ingredients with it. But I seem to keep finding it in the Mediterranean markets because there's a similar flavor profile in Middle Eastern food. But there's no alcohol in this at all. It's just anise oil, which is wonderful. And I've also found cardamom seed oil, which is very, very unique. I mean, you can add this to cookies, to cakes, and it's $5 for a large bottle, but I've had this for years and I think it's still really strong, so there's nothing wrong with it. It's going to last as long as you keep it in a cool place, so indispensable. And also these peppermint oils, as long as it's food grade, not an essential oil for aromatherapy, I use this to make my toothpaste actually. I add this to my own homemade toothpaste. I bought it for that reason, but I actually like it for other things. It's very refreshing, it's very lovely, and there's no alcohol in it. And I've just made sure when I purchased it that it was alcohol free. And then on the market, you find some really other interesting things at Middle Eastern stores. Now, I believe this is, I can't read it because it's in Arabic. Oh, but this is an almond oil, which is really expensive at most stores, but at the Middle Eastern markets, they're not very expensive. And it smells beautiful, wonderful, no alcohol at all. Again, baking, most common ingredient in that. So definitely an alternative to extract. Now I want to say something about food coloring. Food coloring is a really important topic in terms of not just halal, but healthy. Food dyes are really very popular in kids foods, right? Cupcakes, cake frostings, candies and things like that. But we really need to understand what's in it, what are the sources of those ingredients. Yes, from a halal perspective, we're looking at, are all these ingredients halal? But there have been lots of dyes and artificial colorings that are in them that are just really questionable in my opinion in terms of health related, questions in my mind. And there's lots of resources coming up that say, go for the more natural ingredients and avoid any kinds of artificial coloring because of the associations with health concerns. So to avoid any of those questions and to not drive myself nuts in terms of what's in the food coloring, I go for a couple of things. I look for plant-based colorings. So this is a really rich red, and I've used a lot of it, so it's almost gone, but it's really made from plants. So that's important to me. It's all, all natural, edible, totally edible, nothing questionable in it. And I get just a little packet of those. The other thing that can happen, something that people don't always know about food dyes is that the way that some food dyes are made from ground up insects. Not very common, but it can happen. It does happen. And I don't know about you, but I don't really find that very appealing. And I just really want to avoid that. So yes, something can be chemical free, something can be, say that there are no synthetics. But but finding out what it's actually made of is really important. And I really just look to these companies that say all natural, plant derived. So you can find them, typically online or in health food stores, but definitely, larger bottles, smaller bottles coming in packs. And those, really are becoming more and more available in stores as people are becoming more concerned about what their children are eating and what's in everything that the children are eating. But everyone needs to be really concerned about the source of that coloring. How did it get that way? And I think, there are plenty of natural alternatives to make something red, blue, and yellow, and green. So let's just stick to that. So here you have a whole pantry full of ingredients that you can use to make so many things so delicious and completely halal.